Hello and welcome to today's podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us. Sunil ji, I've known him for about 2 years and we have been associated together in Texas Goshala. And it is my honor and pleasure to welcome you today to our podcast. Sunil ji, welcome.
Thanks, Kapilji, and thanks for having me. And I know I'm. This is your first one, and I'm so honored to be your guest.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to start my podcast
Uh,
journey with you.
and
So
good luck. And I've heard things that you wanted to do. It seems very interesting.
thank you. I appreciate that. So let's talk about Bruhati Sahasra Yagna. That's the topic of today.
Mhm.
And ever since I heard about Bruhati Sahasra Yagna, like it's been a very fascinating journey of uncovering a lot of details and a lot of complexities of this
Yes.
yagna. So, for our listeners today, can you talk about a brief overview of what Bruhati Sahasra Yagna is all about and its significance in the Vedic culture?
So it's a very deeply philosophical Mahayagna. It's not just yagna; it's a Mahayagna. And I'll tell you a story of how this idea came about, and then how we and why we started thinking of doing this here. It's a very rare, even in India, it's rarely done. And I've seen some paper headlines where they mention this and say ancient rare yajna being done. So, and I believe this is probably the first time on American soil. There might have been a couple of them before. I don't know, but I think we are the first ones to be doing it, especially in first time in Texas for sure.
Hmm.
So, and how we came about with this idea, I teach Gita and Upanishads. I've been teaching from 2006 almost. This is the 18th year. And last year, after finishing Gita for the 12 years before, I decided to start teaching the 10 Upanishads for the next 12 to 15 years. And Kathopanishad, which is Kathopanishad, is the Upanishad I chose. This is second time I'm doing this. I did that before in 2008. I chose that because Gita borrows quite a bit from Kathopanishad, and so after you can think of Bhagavad Gita as a commentary on Kathopanishad. It borrows a lot of mantras from Kathopanishad. It expands on a lot of ideas that is there in Kathopanishad. So after Gita, going back to Kathopanishad, it'll give you a new meaning to those mantras that we study with the background of Gita study already. So yeah,
Before we go any further, could you talk a little bit about the Kathopanishad itself? Like one of the common for layman understanding that I have is that every Upanishad and every Veda, for example, deals with one particular topic or one particular subject.
yes,
Could you give a brief commentary on Kathopanishad itself?
yeah. So Kathopanishad belongs to the Yajurveda and Krishna Yajurveda, and so that is, as I think we have all heard growing up, it is Yama Nachiketa. Nachiketa is a boy. It is their dialogue. It's their conversation. This boy. The background story is Uddalaka is a great rishi, and in the Chandogya Upanishad, we hear about his son Shvetaketu. Shvetaketu that he sends for education. He goes to he had 12 years of education and then he comes back with a lot of ego. So in that Upanishad, in Chandogya Upanishad, Uddalaka, kind of like, if you have a real learning, you'll not have the ego. So I don't think you have had real learning. So let me test you. So he breaks the boy's ego. That is, like Shvetaketu is his elder brother of Nachiketa. And but in this Upanishad, the Nachiketa is the younger boy, probably 8, 10 years old, and Uddalaka, the backstory is in many Puranas, in the Mahabharata, and all of that. If you read those backstories, you'll see that Uddalaka thought that this boy was useless. He was he was made to do chores around the ashram, and but the thing is, who the Uddalaka judged as somebody that would be very knowledgeable turned out to have a lot of ego. But of course, then he realized after Uddalaka asked him questions and all of that in the Chandogya Upanishad. But the one who Uddalaka judged as somebody not really up to it, doesn't really need education, he turns out to have the light of knowledge within him, even though he didn't show that. So, that's why I keep saying, the looks can be deceiving,
Deceiving.
because and Uddalaka, and you can see that story repeat in many Puranas, where Jadabharata is in the Bhagavata story. He looked like a lazy person, but was a very, very big soul. So that story is always there, where they contrast between how he looks to the society and how the society judges. And when somebody identifies him and goes to learn about what he knows, what is the inner light, comes out. So same story with Nachiketa. We know about Nachiketa when Nachiketa, is the Upanishad starts with Nachiketa boy looking at his father donating cows. So he's doing a yajna, basically to get Swargaloka. And as part of the yajna, you have to donate whatever you have. So the Upanishad says that he gave away all his wealth, which is wealth of the rishis is cow.
Cows.
And then it turns out that the Puranas say that he gave all the choicest cows to his relatives, and the ones that were, and the Upanishad says Nirindriya, Jagdatrina, Dugdadoha. That means no milk was left. It was going to die any day. So there was those cows, and he gave away to general public, right? So he gave it away. And this boy is looking at what his father is doing. He's a Maharishi, he's a great Rishi. And he's like, Shraddha Vivesha, it says, the Upanishad says. That means a sense of fairness, a sense of ethics kind of entered into him. Because the boy said he wants to go to Swarga and he's doing something which will take him to Narakaloka. So he wanted to bring that, that sort of a more morality of what he's doing into his father's attention. And so, he asks a question to his father, who do you give me away to? Just so that his father realizes what he's doing.
Right. Prompting the father to say what's most precious to you.
Yeah.
And are you giving away the most precious thing to someone else as
Yeah.
well?
I mean, are you really doing a dana, right? Which
Right.
it doesn't look like it, right?
Yeah.
But his father takes it in a different sense. Basically, because the father has already judged the boy to really not know much. So, it says Dvitiyam, Tritiyam, it says. So it means he asks, he's giving away, and the boy is kind of trying to get his attention. The father ignores once, twice, but third time when the boy interrupts Uddalaka, he says, I'm going to give you to Mrityu. And the Upanishad doesn't say anything because the scene cuts to the boy traveling to Mrityuloka. It's a vision, his vision. And but the other Puranas, tell that he actually dies. It's kind of a curse.
Right.
He gets kind of cursed and he dies. And then after death, he is going to Mrityuloka. In his vision, he's going to Mrityuloka. And even then, during the journey, he's thinking, no, this is also a useless gift. Because many have gone before me and many will go after me to Mrityu. What use? I'm not special, right? I'm one among many who are going to Mrityuloka. So again, this is not a good gift. He should have made a good gift out of me.
Right.
And so he thinks, and then he goes to Mrityuloka, and then Yama is not there. So he refuses to enter Yama's house. He stays outside for 3 days. And again, this is all his vision. And Yama comes after the third day. And then his wife says, we have a guest. And a guest is like a fire. It's like Vaishvanara Agni. That means because the hunger that the guest brings is a fire that can burn our karma. I mean, good karma. It will create bad karma. So please go and wash his feet and bring this boy in. She's telling Yama that. So Yama, he goes, he calls him in and says, I've made you stay out 3 days outside. I'm going to give you 3 boons. First boon, the boy says, when I go back, and he knows that he's going to be sent back, let my father recognize me and treat me like before. Treat me with love. Yama says, fine. The second one, he says, I want to know about the Swargagni Vidya. So it's the Agni Vidya that takes one to Swargaloka. And actually, he says the Swarga in this Upanishad means Mukti Loka. So I want to know about that, the secret of that Agni Vidya. And Yama says, yes, I'm going to teach you that. But what he taught the boy is left unsaid in the Upanishad. All that the Upanishad says is he taught the boy what are the bricks, how many bricks, and what shape bricks. He taught. You will find the details in the commentaries. The Upanishad left doesn't say about it. So that, and so when I did that, and I don't know, just a bolt of lightning, I was like, we should do this Homa because this is a philosophical Homa, and I'll tell you the what those bricks are and all of that, and which is what we are doing as part of the Bruhati Sahasra Yagna. And I was like, we should do this, and then I started talking to experts in India. Where is this yagna where we can do this kind of arrangement of bricks, and the second boon was actually in India, and also in one of the most repeated things among, I would say, all of our generations is people claiming to be spiritual and not ritualistic.
Correct.
This question is how ritual is spiritualistic.
This is one thing that is very interesting because I have found this to be kind of fashionable these days to say I'm spiritual, but I'm not ritualistic. And part of that is like sort of a feeling that being ritualistic somehow makes you a lesser person, maybe
Correct.
more orthodox. And I think there's a little bit of this fear of being termed orthodox.
And also they think because it's meaningless.
Yeah.
What is the sense? What is the meaning of this? Right? But ritual is spiritual. I mean, even spiritual is rich.
Yes.
There's a ritual in that.
Yeah, there's a ritual in spiritual too.
Yes. So like that. So that the question that the Nachiketa asked Yama, actually the answer to that and what the commentary says and then the other Upanishads talk about, it tells you what is your attitude and mindset that you need when you're doing a yajna like that, a ritual like that. And that completely transforms it from a meaningless, physically, something mindlessly done to mindfully done. Right? And then we'll probably, we'll talk more about that later on. But this is how we started.
So this yagna that was told by
Yama to
Nachiketa is the Bruhati Sahasra Yagna.
That's the Bruhati Sahasra Yagna.
Okay.
That's
and obviously the entire description of that yagna is not found in Kathopanishad. Kathopanishad does talk about the ritualistic part of the bricks and the structure.
Correct.
But doesn't give all the details. Some of those details are actually found in the accompanying commentaries on Kathopanishad. So what are those commentaries?
And the other thing is, while the Kathopanishad talks about bricks, it doesn't say what shape, what number, but you can find it all that in the commentaries. But then there is another Upanishad associated with Rig Veda. Rig Veda is one Upanishad. So that is called Aitareya Upanishad. So in Aitareya Upanishad, it doesn't talk about all of this shape and all of that, but it talks about the philosophical significance of this practice.
And that is going to be our next
question. So what we have, it's kind of, we have merged those two. And so that is where the inspiration came from. I am teaching Kathopanishad, and then we finished the second question and we came to the third question, which is the major of Upanishad is about that. And that idea came that, why don't we do this Mahayajna? And then it turns out that, there are experts in India we don't have here, but we were able to locate them, and then they are going to fly in to do that yajna here. So, and that was the inspiration. And then, of course, it's like you come with an idea, but then you need people
Right.
to execute on that idea and to believe and do that idea. And so, Goshala Abhinavji, I shared with him months ago about that, and he said, like in his the way that he speaks, he said, "Oh, karte." So, and that's how it all started.
No, that's a great idea. Now, to recap, so the answer to question number 2, which was based off of the
In the
second boon that
Of
Yamaraj
Nachiketa.
offered
Yes.
Nachiketa, was about how to get Swarga.
No.
Huh.
How to Swarga Agni Vidya. But Swarga, the way the Upanishad itself defines, is moksha.
Okay.
Right?
So how to get moksha
Yeah.
is the question that is being asked,
Yes.
and the question that is being
How
answered
to get moksha through the ritual,
through the rituals. Okay. So
which you will not find. See, if you generally go and speak to experts, no, you have to. Ritual is all lower. Spiritual is something higher. But what Nachiketa asked is how to get moksha through understanding the right way of doing yajna. What is yajna?
so the ritual that allows you to find moksha
Yes,
was the question being
Yes.
answered,
by
and
Yama.
that refers to the ritual of
Yeah, the
Bruhati
Bruhati
Sahasra
Yes.
Yagna. Okay, very, very interesting.
Yes.
What was the third question, out of curiosity? What was the third question?
So third question, interesting. So there's been a lot of confusion in our traditions, like over a couple of thousand years. Um, the initial thought was that the third question was Nachiketa asking Yama if the jiva, the soul, survives death. So they've taken it as after death, does anything stay?
Yeah.
And so, but it really doesn't make sense because first of all, Uddalaka is doing all this dana with the assumption that he's going to Swarga and he's not going with his physical body.
Correct.
And Nachiketa himself
is
he's
alive after
dead.
death, whatever that.
Yeah, and then and then he also says, even Nachiketa, when he's talking about the futility of this gift to Yama, he says many have died and gone to him, many will die after me and go to him. Right?
So there is an implicit assumption already
that
there
yeah,
is something that
that
survives the death.
survives the body.
Yes.
Right? So that is not really what the third question is. The third question is a very important question, and that is, see, until you attain moksha, you need God. Now the question is, do you need God after moksha? That is the real question, right? Is there a necessity of God? Is there a connection between God and man after moksha? Why do you need God after moksha? I've attained. I attained my goal. No longer is there going to be a rebirth.
Yeah, you're not
What
tied
is the
to the
need for
cycle.
God?
Yeah.
There's no need for God. So this Upanishad is talking about that there is a link between God and man that is never erased. Whether it's in samsara or in moksha, that link is always there. So that is the question. So, and that makes sense because because Yama says, this question even the devatas don't know full, and so I'm not going to answer that question. So he tries to tempt him with wealth and all of that. And the boy says, no, I don't. I want the answer. I don't want anything else. So it was just the question of does the soul survive the body's death? There's no need for Yama to say.
It's a moot point because he has already experienced.
It's also
the
experienced.
journey. Yes.
Yeah. So this is a question that is not readily available. Answer is not readily available because what is the need for God after moksha?
Yeah.
And is there a connection that still stays after we are liberated? So that is
right.
I mean, when we are liberated, are we liberated even from God?
Yes.
Because what's the need?
Because now you've already disconnected yourself from the life and birth cycle.
Yeah.
So what do you do now?
What is the purpose?
Yes. What's the purpose?
So, yes.
And do you stay connected to God, or there is a need for
need
God?
for
or not?
God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So that is a more serious, deep philosophical point that,
Right.
And you can see the answers itself that Yama explains all of that. He's actually talking about those things.
Okay.
So then from the answers you can deduce what the question is.
So, looking at the historical aspect of the Brihuti Sahasra Yagna, right? When was, in terms of dating, when was a Kathopanishad written, and when were the some of the commentaries on Kathopanishad? When were they written?
Yeah. So I mean, these are shrutis, right? So it is not written. Is again, the writing came much
At
later.
some point, it came
Yeah.
about, but then obviously it was passed.
What was it?
Yes,
How? When did it reveal to the world?
right.
So again, these are shrutis, and there is a story. So all of these Upanishads that survive today, they are all during the end times of Mahabharata. Nothing before that,
Okay.
because everything that we have today, the four Upanishads, I mean the four Veda Shakas and their related Aranyakas, Upanishads, and all of those things. The corpus that we call Shrutis, and then Puranas and all of that. Everything that survives today survived because of work of one person, Vedavyasa, and he was at the end times of the Mahabharata. Right? He was born, just before a couple of generations before Mahabharata happened. Before that, you'll be very surprised. The state of Dwapara Yuga, as the Upanishad says, was worse than Kali Yuga. Nothing was there.
And when you say nothing was there,
No Vedic literature was there at that time. Pre Vedavyasa.
how were people guided in their?
See, and the Purana story tell the story. It's when the previous Dwapara Yuga, that's just before us, started. There was, it tells a story about, there was no rains, for a long time, and but there was rain in Gautama Rishi Ashrama. So a lot of people went to, and Gautama took them in his ashrama, and there was, it would only rain in his ashrama, and everywhere there's no rain. Everything was deserted for a long time. So people stayed there, and then there's a story of some things that happened, and then when the rains started to happen again, people wanted to go back to their homes. But Gautama said, no, no, I'm teaching. He is teaching them, while they're staying there, he was teaching them and all of that. So, they needed a reason for them to say, oh, no, we are done, we are going home. And so it is said that Parvati sent Ganesha to help these people trick Gautama Rishi. So they created they created a Maya cow, which really didn't exist, but it appeared like a cow, right? And the story goes that Ganesha helped them create a Maya cow, and it was grazing in the farm there, and the people said, "Oh, this is grazing," and Gautama goes there and touches the cow, and the cow falls down dead. So they say, "Oh, Gohatya dosha," right? And they say Gohatya, and then they say, "No, no, we cannot stay in this ashram anymore," and they leave. And then Gautama, and then he was like, "What? This doesn't look.
This doesn't look right."
Yeah, right." So then he goes to a meditative state, and then he sees all the things that happened, and then he was like, "I did all of this. I gave them shelter. I gave them a home. I taught them all these years. I gave them food, and this is what they did." So he curses all of the generations to come, that all the Vedas will vanish. There will be nothing. So from the Gautama's curse until Vedavyasa appeared, there was nothing. There was no Rig Veda. There was, of course, the Vedic division of 4 Vedas came after Vedavyasa, but the whole Vedic corpus was not there. It was there at the Gautama time, and it was completely wiped out. It's like taking all the Vedas that we know and all the literature, the Puranas and everything that we know today, wiping it. Now we don't know anything. So now the generations and generations are born without nothing.
In fact, yugas passed by.
That within one yuga,
Right.
within that one yuga until Vedavyasa, when he brought back all of those. So if you are really dating, all of these date back to the the time of
Mahabharata,
Mahabharata.
which again is a whole different question as to how do you date
How do
Mahabharata.
you date? Yeah, I
Right.
mean that's a
So
different
yeah,
question.
I think a lot of people would probably say it's the end of the Vedic period, which and they try to date it between 500 and 1000 BC, which I find
No, no, no. I mean this is in the
obviously,
Mahabharata times.
yeah.
So Mahabharata times, historically, it is 3000 common era, before common era.
Okay.
So about 5000 years. So between 5000 to 6000, let's say that 1000 years, that is when everything came by.
Hmm.
So everything could be dated. All of these Upanishads that appeared could be dated there.
So speaking of the Bruhati Sahasra Yagna, could you walk us through some of the key components of the yagna and what exactly does it entail?
Yeah. So Bruhati Sahasra, I said that the actual ritual part, the bricks and how it is laid out, it is mentioned, not completely mentioned, but it is. Yama talks about the bricks and the shape of the bricks and all of that in the Kathopanishad. The philosophical part is in the Aitareya Upanishad. So that will give you an idea of what Bruhati Sahasra Yagna is, what's the philosophical significance, and what do the commentaries talk about that was left unsaid in the Upanishad. So in the Aitareya Upanishad, there is an incident where and the story comes from the Puranas, and what actually happened is in the Upanishad. So you know that in Indra kills Vritra, right? That's a big the story that's repeated everywhere. So when Indra kills Vritra, he gets a Brahma Hatya dosha. So he wants to get rid of that dosha. So he takes on a Mahavrata. It's a big yajna. He takes care of that. So for that he brings on, the devatas themselves are doing various duties in the yajna. So one of the priests of the yajna is Vishwamitra. So in that, the incident of the Aitareya Upanishad talks about uh, Vishwamitra is chanting Bruhati Sahasra as to Indra. So Indra comes up, and Indra. What the background to that is, when the yajna is being done, Indra appears, like you mentioned Kantara, right? So Indra appears possessed.
Hmm.
So and then when Vishwamitra is chanting the Bruhati Sahasra, Indra is possessed. And then he is offering this, as it says that Vishwamitra offered that Bruhati Sahasra as an anna, the food. We do Naivedya, right?
Yeah.
Food. But here the chanting was the food to Indra. And then Indra says, "Oh, I want it again. Repeat it." So he does it 3 times. Vishwamitra chants Bruhati Sahasra 3 times. And why Bruhati Sahasra, that and all of that, we'll talk about that. But the incident is when and then he says, Indra says, "I will give you a boon. Ask me anything." And Vishwamitra says, "I want to know you. Who are you?" Because he knows he's possessed. So it's not Indra.
Someone
Who
else
is
who has
that
possessed
power
him.
behind that? Right? And that power is prana. That is, prana is like the life force. And then prana and also Paramatma, Vishnu. So they are there in him, like they have possessed him, and they are listening to this, and they are, and through Indra they're saying, "Repeat it. I want this food again and again and again." So 3 times. So and then then the Indra says, "I am prana. Prana is you. Prana is in everything." So like prana is everywhere, and prana is the pulse that animates the whole universe. So that prana vidya, he talks about the prana vidya. So that is where the philosophical significance of that comes from. And and now we can connect back to what did Yama tell Nachiketa. So Yama said, he talked about the bricks, the number of bricks, and how it needs to be arranged and all of that. So here, and the commentary talks about, Yama speaks about the 360 bricks that needs to be put in a certain bird shape, that he told Nachiketa. Now, why 360? Right? And so, if you go back to our schools, they say, oh, this 360, everything came from Mesopotamia and Babylonians and all of that. No, but if you go to the Vedic Upanishads, and even actually Rigveda first mandala, I think 155th verse or something, it talks about there are 360 names of Vishnu. That is 1 degree around the earth. So they, like if you go from 1 degree all the way 2 degrees, there's 360 degrees coming back. Each 1 degree has one Vishnu name. So, and Rigveda mantra talks about this. There are 360 Vishnu names. Just like Vishnu Sahasranama is like 1,000 names, there's a 360 names.
So are these 360 names part of the Vishnu Sahasranama, or they are like different?
It's a different one.
Okay.
And I've tried to track those. I've not got it. So, but we are going to put those names on the bricks. But we will take it from the first one, 360 names of the Vishnu Sahasranama. From Vishwam to Havir Hari, that is the 360th name. So every brick will have the name.
One name of Vishnu.
One name as Yama says. Ya Ishtaka Yavatirva Yathava is what he says, Nachiketa. What is that Ishtaka? What is that brick? He tells him. Right? So there are 360 bricks, and each one has a name of Vishnu. And so that one, and then he says, there's more. How do you turn the ritual to spiritual? So he says, see, whenever you do a physical yajna, it is a representation of what is inside. Right? Because in the Vedanta, there is this mindset that there is a macrocosm and microcosm reflections of each other. Yatha Brahmande tata Pindande. Yatha Pindande tata Brahmande. It means what is in the microcosm in man is in the universe. Man is a reflection of the universe. Right? And so that is basically, so here, what it means is and the world around us. So the 360 bricks, to represent that in us, it is a 360 ligaments in the body. We have 360 ligaments. So the fire outside is the fire in our heart. So that Homa is a representation of human bodies, 360 ligaments, which are kind of the bricks. And there's a fire there. And then in the outer world, the 360 days are the 360 bricks. And the fire in the universe is the sun. So now when you're doing Homa, you're thinking of that Homa as something that pouring your havis and the ghee into that, not just that, then you're thinking of that as, oh, that is also represented within my body. What is within me is represented outside. What is within me is represented in the universe. The fire here is the sun out there, and it's the fire in the heart here. So then you're connecting these three domains, right? And it's called as Adhidaiva, it's Adhyatma, which is inside the body, Adhibhautika, which is outside us, and Adhidaivika, which is our universe. So it's always, so whenever we do anything outside, it is always reflected in three domains. What we are doing outside, what its reflection inside, and what its reflection in the world. So if you look at all of the Vidyas in the Vedanta, it is a reflection of the universe, or its reflection is within us. So that is what he teaches. Yama teaches Nachiketa the 360 bricks or the 360 ligaments that we have in the body, and the 360 days that make in the year. And of course, there's a question, 365 days, where's the 360 days? No, 360 is a significant number. So if you look at the solar calendar, which is what, Gregorian calendar is also a solar in this. So solar calendar is 365 days. Lunar calendar is 355 days. And the mean of those two is 360 days. So a mean year is always calculated as 360 because it's an average of the solar year and the lunar year. So a year is supposed to be 360 days. And 360 days is also a circle. So a circle, a completion is always 360, 36. It's a completion. So that's what is taught by him in the Kathopanishad, and that's a reflection. And again, coming to what is the name Bruhati and how it is connected. So Bruhati is one of the chandas. It's a meter. So so there are 7 meters in the Vedas. So there of course there are lesser known, lesser number of aksharas, and then there's Ati Chandas. It's there. But in the Vedas you'll see only 7 different meters. So they call it Saptaswara, Saptaswasa. Saptaswara, there's 7 melody to the music,
Yeah.
and Saptaswasa means 7 sisters, and the Chandas are the 7 sisters. So in the Vedas, there's 7 sisters. It starts from Gayatri all the way to Jagati. So there are 7 sisters. So Gayatri is 24 aksharas. So it's 8 letters is 1 pada, 3 padas, 24 aksharas. Right? So,
And when you say aksharas, it's almost like there are some mantras, for example, when we say Navakshari mantra and all that. So that's what you're talking about, right? How many aksharas, right?
yeah, that's but Navakshari mantra is probably just a single line of
Yes.
mantra. But here I'm talking about a verse.
Multiple lines,
Verses, right? So mantra. So this one, Gayatri mantra, for example, Savitru Gayatri mantra, Tat Savitru Varenyam.
Yeah.
So that is a 24 aksharas, right? And so that is 24 aksharas. So 8 aksharas times 3. And then there's Ushnik, which is 28 aksharas. And then there is Jagati. No, that is when then there is Anushtup. Anushtup is 8 aksharas times 4, 32 akshar letters. 36 is Brihati. 9 times 4. Every pada has 9, then 4 padas, 4. 9, 4, 36.
So are there any which are other more than 36 as well?
Yeah, so that's right? So you have Gayatri,
24.
Ushnik, 28, Anushtup, 32,
32.
Brihati, 36, Pankti, 40,
40.
Trishtup is 44,
44.
Jagati is 48.
Okay.
Right? So that is 12 times 4. Jagati is 12 aksharas in pada times 4
Times
Jagati. So these are the 7 different meters in the Vedic corpus that we find. There are others. They're called Ati Chandas, which is like there are many aksharas, 21 times 4, 19 times 4. There's all of those are there. But in the Vedic corpus, you can see these 7. Brihati is the one that is 36. So there's a lot of numerological significance to all the things that is done in the Vedanta that you can see. Like, for example, the Mahabharata number is 18. You can see 18 everywhere. There are 18 chapters.
18 chapters, yeah.
Right? In the Gita, it's 18 chapters. So 18, the actual original core story is called Jaya. That the Vedavyasa wrote the core story of Mahabharata, and then it became Bharata and Mahabharata as his students added on stories and made it 100,000 verses. But that core story is not Mahabharata. Core story is Jaya. Yeah. And if you look at the letters, Ja and Ya stand for 18. Right? So Ya is 1 and Ja is 8. It's a numerical encoding of letters. It's called as Kathopanishada system. So Ka is 1, Ta is 1, Pa is 1, Ya is 1. So like Ka, Kha is 2, Ga, Gha, Na, Cha, Cha, Ja, Cha, Nya. So that is 0. Right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Then again Ta, Ta, Tha, Da, Dha, Na, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ta, Tha, Da, Da, Na is 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So then you come to Ya, Ra, La, Va, Sha, Sha, Sa, Ha. 8. So 1 to 8. So Ya is 1. Ja is 8. So it's 8. Jaya means 8, 1. But in Sanskrita, when you say the number, you say the units place first, the tens place second, hundreds place third. Right? It's Ashtottara Shatanama. It is 8 over 100. Right? Shodasha means 6, 10. Yeah. So 16 is not 16. It is 6 plus 10. 18 is 8 plus 10. Right. So you always tell the units place first and the tens place second, hundreds place third, like that. So here Jaya means 8. It's 18, not 81. It's 18. So everything, the word itself, the name of the The Mahabharata itself is Jaya, which is 18. So that is a numerological significance to that. 36, significance of 36 is it's the number of prana, because 36 is how it's a circle.
Hmm.
36, 360, 36,000. The Bruhati Sahasra is one Bruhati is 36 letters. 1,000 of those are repeated in the Homa that we'll do in the Mahayajna. So it is 36,000. What is 36,000? 36,000, it is 36,000 nadis are there. If there's a pranic flow in the body, 36,000 nadis are there in the left hand side, 36,000 nadis are there on the right hand side. So 36, it's the pranas. All of the pranas within us are 36,000 each on the left and right hand side. 36,000 is a big. And then what? It is also the number of days we live, 100 years.
Yeah.
Right? 360 days is 1 year.
Right. And multiply that by 100.
100, 36,000. So then you just look at equivalent, like our whole life is 36,000. There's 36,000 nadis in each side of the body. So 36, 360, 36,000, all of these represent a complete circle. And it's an endless circle. It just goes around and round, round. And that's basically what a prana is, a pulse. It has no beginning and no end. But 36 is what it means. So just like Mahabharata, 18 means victory, 36 means a cycle. And it's actually, it's twice 18.
Twice 18, yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of numerology
yes.
that basically goes into
correct
some of these things.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting. So if you look at a general Havan or general Yagna that we do,
yes,
right, it looks like Bruhati Sahasra Yagna is very different from it. One of them was obviously the 360 bricks that we talked about.
Yes.
And I think you did refer to that a little bit about the shape of a bird, the way
it's shape Garuda.
Structured. Garuda, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting enough, because the same context that I don't know if there is a connection I'm trying to make where it doesn't exist, but there is a Puran called Garud Puran that also talks about essentially the journey of the soul after death.
Correct.
And it looks like the journey of Nachiketa and the questions he asked to Yamraj were actually very similar in that sense. So I don't know if there is it's just some sort of a...
No, Garuda Purana talks about the journey of a jiva after death. He's a Papa Jiva. So it's not a journey to Swargaloka.
True.
It is journey to Narakaloka. So that is the journey it talks about. And the reason why, and the Brahma Sutras talk about it. Why do you need Garuda Purana? Because they said, if you read that, it needs to shock you into what am I doing? Let me turn around, right? And let me, turn myself around and do good.
Yeah.
That is the whole reason for, and it asks in the third adhyaya of Brahma Sutras. Why is all these stories about this journey? Why is all that required? Because that is how you get to a sense of, what it is worth living, is when you know the journey of death, especially on the dark side. When you know that, you'll be kind of shocked to realize. Of course, we need a lot of shaking, in this age, but that was the whole point of that. So Garuda Purana is a journey of the jiva on the dark side, so that is not the Swarga or the Mukti. But Nachiketa is a different. Nachiketa is a vision of him going to Yama and talking about all that stuff. But see, when so if somebody's died, they actually also chant Kathopanishada during the 13 days.
Yeah.
Garuda Purana story. There's a tradition of bringing somebody to chant those Garuda Purana or relate those stories. And then also chant Kathopanishada.
Right.
So because it's a Yama Nachiketa Samvada, so it is also done that.
Right. So other than obviously the differences that you talked about, the bricks and the shape of that, and obviously the importance of Bruhuti, the 36 verses that we talked about, what are the other common differences between a Bruhuti Sahasra Yagna and a regular Homam or a Yagna that we might do in general?
Yeah. So Bruhati is a, because it's a 36, so it is a Rigveda verses. So all the mantras that is chanted is Bruhati, and it need not be Bruhati itself. Right? Right? Coming back to the numerological significance of 36. So you can make 36 from 24 also, in the sense that, for example, Gayatri mantra is 24 aksharas. Right? When I chant Gayatri 9 times, right, then it becomes
Six
six
times. Yeah.
Brihatis. Right? So it is the number of aksharas that I've chanted total. So it can be combos, and that's also done.
Hmm.
You can combine different verses, but the total number of aksharas that you have chanted should be divisible by 36. Then that becomes a Brihati.
Hmm.
But that number of Brihatis.
Right.
So even though I've chanted 9 times Gayatri mantra, let's say 9 times, but in terms of the Brihati, I've chanted 6 Brihatis, like that. So, but in this yajna, what happens is the Brihati Chandas and or the combos, it's chanted so that, and 1,000 havis, is done to the fire, and at the end of the day, and it will take about 6 hours to do that. They would have covered 36,000 letters chanting when then done the havis, and that is the number of 36,000 is the number of the prana. 36, 36, 360, 36,000. So this is all prana. So that says when you chant these number of times, you invoke that power. In this case, it's the life power.
Hmm.
And that's why we have. If you look at the Bruhati Sahasra Homa, why are we doing it? It says for individual well-being and world peace, because prana is the one that can bring about all of this. Because the highest force among all of the divinity is prana, and Upanishad talks about that, and all all the Upanishads and the Puranas, they talk about, when you are doing your worship, you have to do it through prana, is what the Upanishad says. And when you translate it to adhyatma, which in us, we say when you have to meditate, you have to focus on breath. Exactly. Whether it's focus or worship, breath is the most important thing. So breath is the highest idol among all idols, which is and that's so Bruhati Sahasra is the worship of the highest idol
Hmm.
through which we worship Paramatma, God.
Interesting. What are the benefits you mentioned? I think your individual peace and the world peace. What are
Yes.
the punya someone can expect by participating in Bruhati Sahasra?
Yeah, Bruhati itself is a cleansing. Like prana is cleansing. And there is a story in, I think there is that story occurs in a couple of Upanishads, where uh, different sense organs within us are ruled by different devatas. Like for example, the eyes are ruled by Surya, ears are ruled by Chandra Devata, right? The nose, the nasal nostrils are ruled by Ashwini Kumaras. Agni is our mouth. So like that, hands are Indra. So all the devatas form. All you have to do is, because don't think of all those stories. Think whenever we think of the names of these divinities, think of what they are ruling in our body. Right? Indra Deva is the hands. Surya Deva is the eyes. So it says that the asuras wanted to corrupt the devatas, and devatas can be corrupted. And there's all these stories of Indra being corrupted, and all the devatas can be corrupted. So they started corrupting different devatas, right? Like, they corrupted Agni. So what happened? So because asuras can corrupt Agni, we can speak the truth, we can also lie. Because the asuras were able to corrupt Surya Deva, we can see good, we can see bad. We can hear good, hear bad. They corrupted, the Mano Abhimani Devata. We can think good, we can think bad. We can be highly egoistic, we cannot, right? So every part of us, psychologically, bodily, everything, it can be good, it can be bad. And it says there's only one thing that the asuras tried to corrupt, and they were smashed like a ball of clay thrown at a rock, and that's prana. Prana is incorruptible, right? And so that is what this whole thing is. When we go to prana, then it cleanses everything, because there is no defect in prana, and therefore, because he's defectless, he's able to cleanse us. No other, no other devata, nobody else can do that, right? As an idol. So if we go to God through a certain devata, uh, if the devata can be corrupted, then they're not that devata, that level of perfection they can give us. But if you go directly to prana, because he's perfect and because he's incorruptible, as the Upanishad itself says, that comes to us. And that's the reason why meditation should always be on the breath. Everything should be focused on the breath, because that is the one that can never be corrupted. And that is the one that is. So you can think of breath as the master within the body, and breath outside as the idol to reach God. I know it's a lot of deep philosophical stuff, but this in understanding is very important for people, because popular Hinduism is so senseless, because what you read in the Upanishads and what people are thinking about just doesn't make any sense. And like, how did they learn? And again, because see, these we learn through patchwork, right? And my grandmother said something, my mom said something, I learned something through a serial and all of that. So it's all we patched all of those things, and all of those are defective. And then in our minds we have something that has no connection to real Hinduism. So I don't. Popular Hinduism is not even real Hinduism, right? And the Vedanta is very different from what we call popular Hinduism. So it's always very good to dive into the original and learn from it. Yeah, it is very difficult, but you need to find a teacher, and but always go back to the originals, and don't go to the serials, don't go to the TV shows, because that is the worst corrupting influence that you can have.
So I think obviously the TV shows kind of sometimes dumb it down to an extent that everyone can
Yes.
understand. And I think I can really understand the objective if they are really trying to serve one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that three main reasons why sometimes you will find the difference between what is popularly practiced versus what is really being taught by the scriptures. Number one, I think we have a pretty vast amount of text that we have. Like,
Correct.
there's
Yes.
a enormous volume of text. I mean, you could literally spend multiple lifetimes trying to learn all of that. And second is it's probably also a little abstruse in a way that you have to learn proper Sanskrit to be able to understand all of that. And even there, sometimes the commentary on that particular text could probably be different from each other. So I think there is a little bit of that too.
Yes and no. And I'll tell you what the no part is. Yes, it's a vast body of knowledge. But then there is a sutra in the Brahma Sutras. It says Gati Samanya, which means that a conclusion that you can get from a small text is applicable to every other text in the whole corpus. So you don't have to study everything, because a part of a whole reflects the whole.
That's actually very interesting
Yes.
because I have also seen it in a slightly different context. Uh, and I'm not talking about necessarily Vedanta in particular, but if
Yeah.
I started to look at, say, the Ramayana, right? Ramayana itself comes with multiple variations.
Yes.
Different people in different contexts, in different countries, in different languages have written their own versions of Ramayana.
Yeah.
And in some cases, some of those versions of Ramayana actually differ from each other. Right?
Yeah. So this is going back to what pramana, the concept of pramana. That means what is real source of knowledge. So if somebody writes their own version of Ramayana, that is not a pramana, right? So Krishna has given a very beautiful pointer to how we need to approach this. So in the second chapter, he says, Vyavasayatmika, in the Gita second chapter, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeya gurunandana baushaka hi anantascha buddhaya avyavasayana. Which means vyavasaya means structured knowledge. So that means pramana nirnita jnana. In the commentary, this what is vyavasayatmaka buddhi means pramana nirnita jnana. That means it is not patchwork. It is analyzed knowledge based on the hierarchy of proofs and all. So That is so. What Krishna says is, when you go with that structure of learning, it's basically structured learning. Ekeha Kuru Nandana. It says. Your conclusion, my conclusion will be one. Bahushaka hi anantascha buddhaya avyavasayinam. Your opinion and my opinion are infinite, endless. So the conclusion of that is, opinions are dime a dozen, nobody cares.
Right.
Structured learning, it will lead to one conclusion. So if you go through proper proofs, all of that, me and you will always come down to one
To the one
conclusion.
conclusion. So everything
Yes.
will essentially be aligned
Yeah,
and congruent with each other.
yeah.
It's
It's a fashionable to say, oh, this version of Ramayana, that version of Ramayana. No. Yeah, that is their opinion, right? So they looked at Valmiki Ramayana and then they've added more colors and their own descriptions and all of that stuff. But even Tulsidas Ramayana is not considered pramana.
so that I think that's a point.
Yes.
And I think just for the advantage of people who are listening to this podcast, pramana literally translates into proof.
Source of knowledge.
Yes.
Is it a source of knowledge? It may be a great work of devotion, but is it a source of knowledge? No. If somebody has written it, it's not a source of knowledge. So there's only two itihasas that are source of knowledge. One, Mahabharata, other, Valmiki Ramayana. That's it. So other than that, I might write an amazing book. You might write an amazing book. Somebody might write. It might be an amazing book.
So it's an amazing book, but not
It cannot be
pramana.
it cannot be. I should say it cannot be a primary source of knowledge. I can derive from those sources, and I could have put it in a great way for the newer generation to understand. But all I've done is I've kind of put it in a day. But all the references I should point to there. Oh, I got it from here. I got it from Brahma Sutra. If I don't have anything to show there, and if I say I think this is how it should be, nobody cares.
It's true.
Yeah.
So one thing that is that I think would be very important for people who kind of look at Bruhati Sahasra Yagna and say the importance of it and the references that you have been able to talk about
Yeah.
from the Vedic sources, and people might say, okay, if I want to participate in this, what are the things I need to do to basically be shuddha and receptive to the punya that comes out of the yagna itself?
Right.
What are the things that they need to do to be able to be in the receptive mode?
Right. Yeah, and that's very important because it is a yajna to prana, and here the prana is we're talking about Vishnu, and you spoke about the Garuda, the bricks. We make the Garuda image in the bricks, and so the Homakunda has the fire, and who is sitting on Garuda? Vishnu is sitting on it. So in the Homakunda we are invoking Vishnu, and that's why it's like Garuda Vahana. So Garuda is made in the bricks, and then there's a Homakunda in the middle, and then in the fire carries Vishnu, and within whom we are offering this 36,000 letters of the mantras. Right? So that is what. So and because it's 36,000, purity is the most important because it's there to purify us, and punyaha vachana and all of like if something if they want to purify the house, they do punyaha vachana. They chant those mantras. It's called pavamana suktas, which basically prana, and then they go around the house and sprinkling water and all of that, for shuddhi. So this homa is like that. This mahayajna is like that. So that means if you are doing a yajna which is this strong, you better be pure. And all the vidwan, the main purohit for this is his name is Vidwan Ravindra Attur, and he is Udupi based in Karnataka. He is flying in from there. He is actually in Ayodhya conducting a lot of homas as part of the installation of Ramlalla, and so he has set some guidelines that you need to at least 10 days before abstain from all of these things. So be sattvic. At the minimum, the previous 10 days, be sattvic. Nobody is coming to your house to see what you're doing. But if you are not pure, what happens? The prana is going to have an adverse effect on you. So you're doing this homa to purify yourself. If you are not doing that, then the homa is not doing good to you. Right?
And I think I want to also mention here that recently we have seen with Ram Janmabhoomi Pran Pratishtha, right? Prime Minister Modi also undertook this 11-day fast, right? They
Yes.
initially advised him to do a 3-day fast, and he
Right.
said, "No, I'll actually do all 11 days."
Yes. Yes.
So only lived off of coconut water.
Correct.
And I
Yeah.
think this is one of those things that you may take some inspiration from, saying this is what a way for you to be purifying
Yeah.
yourself.
And again, there's many different kinds of purification. There's bodily purification, and of course, fasting is it is well known even in the medical literature that fasting purifies us. The other one is mental purification, uh, getting rid of your phones for a couple of days. It's basically shutting down, and that was there. All the Ekadashi fasts that is built in, twice a month. It is basically to shut down our everyday activities. Food intake purifies the body, and and the mental purification would be cutting down on your phone, cutting down on your TV, cutting down on all of that. Just for one day every 15 days. So at least try to do those things to purify, shut off all these unnecessary things 10 days before. So 14th is when April 14th is when the Bruhati Sahasra Yagna is. So from 4th March, 4th April to 14th April, those 10 days, you can not you cannot fast that many days, but at least use sattvic
Go
food.
sattvic, yeah.
Go sattvic, leave those garlics and all these pungent vegetables, and no alcohol and no cigarettes and all of that, and then just and then don't watch useless stuff, social media,
Right.
and all of that, and then focus on just on devotion and whatever is your way to devotion. It can be reading Sundarakand or whatever you do as just keep to it until that 14th, and then go back to what you do every day and after 14th. So that's the least you could do as a purification ritual.
And I would say this is not only the things that you suggested, they not only result in spiritual cleansing, but they also result in physical and mental cleansing as well.
Definitely, yes.
So I think you'll probably start to see impact of all of these things on multiple counts.
And I'll give you an example, right? So we were in Costa Rica in December. We were on vacation. So we went to a place called La Tigra in Costa Rica, and we just got a car and rented a car, and then just went around the country. And that place is kind of isolated. It's a rainforest. Costa Rica, most of Costa Rica is rainforest, and there was a cabin in the rainforest, and there was like a for the food, kind of a restaurant kind of a place that you have to go in car, and that's it. There was no TV, no reception, no internet, no nothing, no Wi-Fi, even 5G, nothing worked. So when we went there, we were there for 1.5 2 days, and the first couple of me, including of course my kids, they're like, oh no, there's no TV in the there was, and only one light in the cabin. Outside there's no light, and it was like it felt like death experience. Like all connections gone, everything. But then that it a short while. Next morning, we naturally were like, oh, let's go outside, let's walk here, let's do this. So our attention was forcibly on the outside, right? We felt like, oh, it's so peaceful, we can walk. We were actually, you don't realize how much you don't really focus around you. The focus is so much on the phone. When it is not there, you know how much you're missing out.
Totally.
Because we only have partial attention around us, right? Because some attention is on the phone, and even when we are not using it, some part of us is kind of focused on the phone, and then once you regain it, and when you're like, wow, no, I can see things. Oh, this is stone. It looks, you look at all the birds and all of that, so you can see that. And we just a couple of months ago we experienced that, and the kids experienced that. They're complaining the previous evening because there was nothing, but the next day they were quiet. They were happy, all smiles. We were going around, and fantastic experience. It was nature, and so that is cleansing. I mean, you can feel that cleansing in the mind and in the body. And then you come to America, and then everything is so easy to reach, and then again it's like
I think there would be a little bit of withdrawal symptoms as you basically
definitely
try to
yes,
get away from
yes.
distractions and the kind of spicy, tasty, the chatpata food and things like that.
No, but there was food was there, so that was one
At
good
least there
thing.
was how
The
there's
food had uh, they have Spanish, and Spanish food doesn't have the spices,
Mhm.
but they had habanero and all of that. Like the
So I guess you can make
Mexican,
it hot, not spicy
yeah,
but hot. Yeah.
yeah. Spanish food is stale. Mexican food has a lot of spices.
Mm.
So they know that because a lot of visitors, I think probably Indian visitors go there, Costa Rica. So they knew exactly what we needed. So they had the Mexican habanero sauce and all of that stuff. It was wonderful. So
Nice.
we didn't complain.
Nice.
and it's and the country is like, I know we are digressing, but vegetarian option is everywhere. I'm a vegetarian. uh, we did not find any issues. Vegetarian food, and they have boats, vegetarian options available.
Mm.
That boats are there. Indian restaurants is all over the place, even in
Nice.
small remote places.
Nice.
There's Indian restaurants.
Nice.
Yeah,
You did mention, by the way, about another yagna that you're doing a day before, Kushmanda
couple
yagna.
of yeah, couple of yajnas.
Mm.
So and usually the Bruhati Sahasra Yagna goes on for days. Uh, so what we are doing is, we are previous evening we are doing special. See, the next day is open to public. The previous day is only open to sponsors, right? And then I think we'll talk about all the
And
sponsorships
so the
that,
sponsors are the yajman for that yagna, right?
yeah, Yajman and Samohika Yajman and
Yeah.
all that. So there is a couple, like Vastu Shanti Homa is done. Basically, it is to cleanse the place. Like if you do a Vastu Homa in your house, you're cleansing the place.
Right.
And then Kushmanda Homa is done. And then Kushmanda Homa is a very special Homa that kind of cleanses uh, all the karmas that we carry, that until then it kind of cleanses. So again, not all karmas, and you can murder and come back and say, I'll do Kushmanda Homa. No. It's what is called as Adrida Karma. That means misdemeanors. So small things that we have done, like we have disrespected elders, we have disrespected parents, we have disrespected wise people, knowingly or unknowingly. Right?
Both.
We do so many things that we don't know. So all of those things, they are all accumulated within us. Psychologically, it's there within us. So it cleanses away all of that. Not the big ones, the small ones.
Yeah.
And it's not a license to then start doing again.
All over again. Yeah.
It's a cleansing. It's like all this we talk about life resets and all of that. This is a life reset. Kushmanda Homa is a life reset, because you are cleansing, and we are going to ask people who are sponsors, who we invite to be part of that Homa, to come with that mentality that I've done all of these pava karma in my life. I want to cleanse it, and be part of that to cleanse it. And so that is a Kushmanda. And then there's also a Homa involving cows, that is also combined, because it's a Goshala, because there are a lot of cows.
Yeah.
That Go Homa is also done.
And all of that is going to be a part of the yajman package, essentially.
Correct.
We
So all of the sponsors that are sponsoring for this, they will be invited on the previous day
to all
to
three.
participate, and to take part in it. And then of course next day, um, there is a difference between in the north of India, people actually go and participate. You In this one you cannot. So people maintain distance. It's people who are there, the purohits that are there, the five purohits. They are the ones but you can bring, for Purnahuti, you can bring, like if you are at a Yajaman level of sponsorship, which is $10,000, then your family can bring, articles like a dry coconut and all of, and we'll provide you all of the list of things you can bring. You can bring vastras, like I don't know what the English part is. Not dhoti, but the one you wear on the top.
Angavastram or something.
Yeah, Angavastra kind of. So that one, and so you can bring all of that, and which will be offered to the fire.
Hmm.
And but then for others, there's samohika, right? So we will collect from all of you, and then it will be offered for you.
On
So,
your
but
behalf.
on behalf. But again, everything is sankalpa is done. So they'll tell your name
Mhm.
and in sankalpa, and then. But people cannot just go and offer
It
it
makes sense.
because in the Vedic rituals, offering has to have a mantra behind it. So you cannot just throw something
You
in.
have to chant the right
You have to
mantra.
chant. So only they are going to do it.
One of the things I found very fascinating about the entire discussion that we have had about the Bruhati Sahasra Yagna is that there are very few priests who can actually.
Correct.
Why is that?
Because this is one of the very rare yajnas. So I mean, there's so many, right? You know, of Dhanvantri yajna, Pavmana homa, all of these different homas are there. They have different, their health giving, longevity, Mrutyunjaya homa, and all of that, Navagraha homas. So these are the general homas that people do. Brihati is because it's a spiritual. So it's not at the level of I have a problem, so I want to solve that problem. So like for example, if you do Mrityunjaya Homa, it's kind of like I have a health issue or some kind of an issue. So with it's a kamya homa, as in because I have a wish and I'm doing this homa to fulfill that wish. So these are those things, right? Brihati is basically it's a different level of homa. It's a spiritual. It's not about I have a desire. I want to meet that desire. It is like I want to cleanse myself. I want to open up my spiritual path. We don't know like all the sponsors who join that. We don't know how it's going to affect their mental mindset and all of that after that homa, because there's a powerful influence of prana. So that is why we request all of you to come with cleansed, with an open mind, not looking at the phone or
Mhm.
not chatting with people, but focused on the homa, because we don't know how this is going to impact you, and what it's going to. It might open our minds to something else. So that is the mindset that everybody should come with. Is to be ready to be kind of put in a very higher plane, through this homa.
So those of us who are interested, what are the next steps they can take? How do they participate? How do they say like I want to be one of the person who will?
Sure, and which is what we wanted to create. We wanted to create an event where general public is involved, because it's well-being and peace, everything, and it's a community well-being. It's individual well-being and also community well-being. So and we wanted a maximum participation from the community, and so there are different levels of sponsorship, and I believe you're going to put the link on the podcast notes. And the highest level is Yajaman. It's a $10,000 level, and we of course we don't expect everybody to be able to do that. And the lowest level, which is that we wanted to make sure that we have maximum participation, and that is Kalasha. So there are 360 bricks, and there are 360 kalashas that will be kept. Right. So see in the puja, if you have done a ritual, and if you have observed what the Purohit is chanting, you can see he says in the yajna's fire, in the kalasha, and in the pratima. So he's invoking in three places. So the god is invoked not just in fire but also in the kalash. Right?
Mm.
So that, and if there's a pratima, if there's a picture, there's some idol, it's invoked in there. So three places you'll see that done. And even in this one, we are doing the kalash, the 360. So the 360 bricks, the 360 kalash.
And so do the people get to take the brick at the kalasha back?
And the beauty of that's a most beautiful thing, because it's not just attending and going home and that's it. So now when you're a sponsor, even it's a $121 is the sponsorship, and it's available even to people who don't live here in Houston. If they can sponsor from anywhere in the country. We are going to ship them not the brick, but we'll ship them the kalash, and and the homa, bhasma, and all of that. So what we have done is, I told you there are 360 names, right? and that we're going to scribe the 360 names on each of the bricks.
So everyone will get one of the names of Vishnu.
Right.
Do they
And
get to
so
choose?
you can choose.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can, and let's say, I'm the first one, and the brick will have Vishwam, right? The first name.
Right.
And then on the other side of the brick, you can write all the family members' names. Right? And that brick will be used as part of that Garuda formation and the Homa bricks. And the Homa is done. And then at the end of it, you can take that Kalasha and then you can take the brick home. And it's so auspicious just to keep that brick in your puja room. That's it. It's a transformative experience to have that with that powerful, rare Mahayajna that's done, that brick that's being used. You've scribed all the family name, and then you bring it home and keep it there, the Kalasha and the brick. So the whole point was, you need to take a piece of that Mahayajna back home. And otherwise, if you are there and just go back, that impact is not there. Why don't you take something out of that yajna back home? Then that impact is permanently in the house.
And you keep it for posterity.
Posterity, yes. Yeah.
Fascinating. What are the things that we have not discussed about the yajna?
I think we have discussed, what Bruhati is, what Bruhati Sahasra is, the significance of prana, and the whole history and the stories and all of that stuff. So I think we have discussed most of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was fascinating and really the level of spiritual depth that I was able to get into and learned so much from you. It's like drinking from a fire hose. But it has been a fascinating journey talking to you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sunilji. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure talking
Thank
to
you, Kapilji. I know there's a lot of things here, but just the short of it is this: there is a numerological significance to 36. And if you look at the math and ever wonder why is a circle 360 degrees, it all comes down to, see, Indian math comes from rituals. If you look at mathematical origin, say in Greece, basically geometry, it comes from the Egyptians, and they're building structures, right? In India, it is built rituals. Like if you go to the Shrauta Sutras and all of that, Bodhayana, the value of root 2 is calculated in there. So it is not, so there is a lot of numbers and math involved in construction of these altars. And the 360 and all of that comes from those things. 360, 36, everything is that circle, the pulse, which never stops, right? So that is where it is, and that is connected to prana. And if you just have that awareness that prana is the highest idol through which you have to approach God,
right,
that is cleansing. And then you take a part of it and keep it at home. What else do you need?
Well, I would say the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know.
That is exactly how it should be. Because even in the Kathopanishada, Brahma, the creator, says that he who thinks he knows not. He who knows that he knows not knows. So that's a truth. That we spoke about Nachiketa, the Shvetaketu and Uddalaka. Right? So Shvetaketu thought he knew everything. And Uddalaka told him, do you really know everything? Do you know that which is not known can be known? He's like, what? Really? And so if you look at all of the Upanishad knowledge, it is to drill into us that when you know nothing, after knowing everything, that is when you actually know.
True.
It's
fascinating experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kapilji.